I am an American soldier.
I'm a warrior and a member of a team.
I serve the people of the United States and live the Army values.
I will always place the mission first.
I will never accept defeat.
I will never accept defeat.
I will never quit.
I will never leave a fallen comrade.
I am disciplined.
I am disciplined. Physically and mentally tough.
Trained and proficient in my warrior tasks and drills.
I always maintain my arms, my equipment, and myself.
I'm an expert and I'm a professional.
I stand ready to deploy, engage, and destroy the
enemies of the United States of America in close combat.
I am a guardian of freedom and the American way of life.
I am an American soldier.
I am an American soldier.
I am an American soldier.
I am Army Strong.
There's strong, and there's Army Strong. See what it takes at GoArmy.com.
Sometimes riders feel lost, unsure why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, offering manuscript critiques and line edits through a mentoring editorial style. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services, visit blackwolfeditorial.com.
Hey folks, I want to introduce you to a friend of mine, Dr. Richard Harden. We are on the same mission, which is waking up America. We just have different paths. So stay tuned for some information on how you can keep up with Richard and all his work.
Visit Richard's website at raharden.com. That's the World Wide Web at RAHARDIN.com. At his website, you can see a summary of the 6 books he has written, where purchases may be made. He also has a link to 18 videos on YouTube and several blogs about Christian beliefs. If you prefer, visit Amazon.com/Kindle and type in Richard Harden to see and purchase his books.
Every day, the men and women of the United States Marine Corps stand ready to defend the American way of life. The few, the proud, the Marines.
The following message contains a special offer for listeners of this station. Are you a man over 40? Are you constantly looking for the nearest bathroom? Do you wake up multiple times a night to use the bathroom? Right now, Perfect Prostate is sending out free bottles of their groundbreaking new formula to listeners of this station. Perfect Prostate formula was developed by medical doctor Mitchell Fleischer, and its ingredients have been clinically studied to reduce your frequent nighttime bathroom visits and promote healthy urine flow. Right now, preferred customers get their first bottle of Perfect Prostate absolutely free. There's nothing to lose. Perfect Prostate is guaranteed to reduce that constant urge to use the bathroom, especially at night, and promote healthy urine flow. Don't wait. Call now for your free bottle. Just pay shipping and processing. Dial 1-800-675-0251. That's 1-800-675-0251. Supplies are limited. One free bottle per household. Call now. Dial 1-800-675-0251. That's 1-800-675-0251.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
My name is Jessie. I'm a United States Special Forces widow. This gives me a unique perspective on the world around us. If you're willing to listen, I'll tell you how I see it, and I won't pull any punches. This is my POV, which stands for Point of View.
All right, this is Jessie. How y'all doing out there tonight? What a year it has been. And yes, if you looked at the title of the show, It is the year in review. Oh boy, before I get started, because trust me, I could probably do a lot more than a couple minutes on every month. I'm just going to focus mostly on the international stuff. Mostly. I'll leave the political stuff to the other shows. You know I usually do. But boy, do I have a few doozies. Boy, do I. So, what can I say? I mean, do you realize all the insanity that has gone on this year? I didn't even realize all of it till I started putting this show together. Because you have to remember, I didn't start in January. I started much later. I started sometime around April or May. So, I don't have audio clips from back that far, but we're going to do our best. Okay? You know I always try. And the biggest thing right off the bat that happened in January, in my mind, had to be the Iran nuclear deal. Now, let me see if I can pull up a statement on that. I don't have it prepped, so you're just gonna have to bear with me. All right. Let's see if I can get this to cooperate for us all.
After 2 years of negotiations, the United States, together with our international partners, has achieved something that decades of animosity has not. A comprehensive long-term deal with Iran that will prevent it from obtaining a nuclear weapon. This deal demonstrates that American diplomacy can bring about real and meaningful change. Change that makes our country and the world safer and more secure. This deal is also in line with a tradition of American leadership. It's now more than 50 years since President Kennedy stood before the American people and said, "Let us never negotiate out of fear, but let us never fear to negotiate." He was speaking then about the need for discussions between the United States and the Soviet Union, which led to efforts to restrict the spread of nuclear weapons. In those days, the risk was a catastrophic nuclear war between two superpowers. In our time, the risk is that nuclear weapons will spread to more and more countries, particularly in the Middle East, the most volatile region in our world. Today, because America negotiated from a position of strength and principle, we have stopped the spread of nuclear weapons in this region.
All right, that's enough of that noise. Don't worry about it. There's not much more. Thankfully, Obama has, 21, 22 days left in office? And, as always, I'm juggling 5 things at once, folks. But yes, that was the big thing in my mind in January. And then there was a positive. Taiwan elected its first female president. Which, that was pretty cool. Then there was a whole bunch of sports scandals. Then there was the Boko Haram. There was a couple of Boko Haram raids and a suicide attack in Damascus. Does any of this surprise anybody? Because I know it doesn't surprise. None of this surprises me. Now we move along to February. And the latest attempt at peace talks for Syria, mediated by the United Nations. We're not going to go on my United Nations rant tonight. Started in Geneva in February. North Korea launched a quote-unquote satellite into orbit. However, it was a thinly veiled attempt to test their intercontinental ballistic missile technology. Come on, I think we can all see through that one, Kim Jong-un. Then there were, of course, more unfortunate Boko Haram attacks over in Nigeria. And China deploys missiles on islands in the disputed South China Sea. Oh yes, remember we covered a lot about the South China Sea on here. And President Obama, I'm going to touch on this one, announced his historic visit to Cuba. Yes. What can I say? Where he took in a baseball game in Havana. All this while there was much more chaos going on in the world. Syrian government made another attempt to end fighting. Fail. Fail. And more fail. Alright. We are up to March. The UN Security Council unanimously imposed another round of sanctions on North Korea on March 3rd. This was after the country launched a rocket that allegedly put a satellite into orbit in February and had conducted a nuclear test in January, which sparked a 5.1 magnitude earthquake. The new sanctions called for inspections of all cargo entering and leaving the country, a ban on import of luxury watches, snowmobiles, and jet skis, which are favored by Kim Jong-un and his pampered Pyongyang pooches. Then, the president of Brazil was taken into custody in March. Oh yes, for a broad corruption scandal. Then you had trouble in Somalia. Somalia's intelligence services cooperated with the United States in airstrikes that killed more than 150 Al-Shabaab. Yes, another one of those terrorist groups I'm always talking about. Members in March. U.S. official said that the camp was Al-Shabaab's main planning base. He said Somali's officials helped the U.S. to pinpoint the location of the militants' training base. But, of course, military officials don't give details. Russia announced its fake withdrawal from Syria. Oh yes, and I say fake withdrawal. Yes, I said fake, because as we know, Russia is still in Syria. Kerry got it right once. Let me see if I can find the audio for this. John Kerry said Daesh is committing genocide. Let me see if I can get this to play nice for us.
The United States responded quickly by denouncing these horrific acts and, more importantly, taking coordinated actions to counter them. In September of that year, President Obama mobilized an international coalition, now 66 members strong, to halt and reverse Daesh's momentum, and that is what we are doing. In the 18 months since, coalition...
Okay, I don't think we're really reversing their momentum. Let me see if I can find a better clip here.
We have pushed the terrorists out of 40% of the territory that they once controlled in Iraq and 20% in Syria. Excuse me. We have degraded their leadership,
March,
attacked their revenue sources, and disrupted their supply lines. And currently we are engaged, as you all know, in a diplomatic initiative aimed at trying to end the war in Syria. That civil war fuels Daesh, and in doing what we are doing now, we are working to further isolate, to weaken, and ultimately to defeat them. We are working intensively to stop the spread of Daesh and its affiliates within and beyond the region. All of this constitutes an extraordinary effort by a large segment of the international community and the United States. And that effort is fully warranted by the appalling actions of the organization that we oppose. My purpose in appearing before you today is to assert that in my judgment, Daesh is responsible for genocide against groups in areas under its control, including Yazidis, Christians, and Shia Muslims.
All right, he finally got to the point. Let's rewind just a few seconds of that.
For genocide against groups in areas, and in my judgment, Daesh is responsible for genocide against groups in areas under its control, including Yazidis, Christians, and Shia Muslims. Daesh is
So, he got one right. Gotta give him credit where credit is due. Got to. Then, of course, there was the Paris attacks on March 18th. Yes, those were horrific. Oh, the suspect of the 2015 Paris attack was arrested, and that was Salah Abdeslam. So that score one for the good guys. Turkey agrees to take militants from Greece. Well, that's a good thing. Oh, yes, and then March 21st, President Barack Obama visits Cuba. Oh, yes. I just said our president visited Cuba. Isn't it lovely?
Dear President Obama.
Sorry about that. Prepping some of these on the fly. Would you like me to change anything tonight? And I'm going to play just a few moments of the joint press conference with President Obama and Raul Castro. All right, the audio for some reason, oh, there it is.
We are pleased to welcome you on this, the first visit of a President of the United States of America to our country in 88 years. We have observed that in the 15 months that have passed, since the decision was made to establish our diplomatic relations, we have obtained concrete results. We were able to resume direct postal exchanges, and we signed an agreement to resume commercial flights. We have signed 2 memorandums of understanding on the protection of the environment and maritime areas, and another one to secure the safety of sea navigation. Today, another one will be signed on cooperation in the area of agriculture. At the moment, another set of bilateral instruments are being negotiated to cooperate in such areas.
Raul. Let me see if I can find a clip from dear Barack Obama.
To continue moving
basic needs for people and poverty and inequality and race relations. And we welcome that constructive dialogue as well, because we believe that when we share our deepest beliefs and ideas with an attitude of mutual respect.
Okay, so President Obama basically said he respects Castro and Cuba. Obama fail. Definitely an Obama fail. So, moving right along, I think we've given Cuba enough attention. There were the horrific Brussels terrorist attacks at the Brussels airport. Let me see if I can quickly get a clip on that. And if not, we'll just move along. Like I said, I'm doing this one on the fly. And I'm looking for something on state.gov real quick, and they don't make it easy. They really don't. Sorry. That was clapping for Kerry's most recent speech, which was not Brussels. All right. I've got just a couple minutes of audio here about the Brussels airport attack. And this is spokesman Kirby.
I want to start this afternoon with just a few remarks about the terrorist attacks in Brussels today. You've seen the President's remarks, as well as the Secretary's statement. As Secretary Kerry said, today's attacks in Brussels are an assault against the Belgian people and the very heart of Europe. Our thoughts are with all those affected by this violence, the injured, the missing, and the families of those whose lives were taken. You've also seen that Secretary Kerry spoke by phone this morning with his Belgian counterpart. He made it clear to Foreign Minister Reinders that we stand with the people of Belgium in this difficult time and that we will assist in whatever way they require efforts to bring the perpetrators to justice. He also praised the courage and skill of Belgian first responders, many of whom are still on the job right now. We've seen claims by Daesh that they were responsible.
Yep, Daesh inspired it. We heard that word a lot this year. Then there were more suicide attacks in Pakistan. I'm just making sure I'm not missing anything else from March. I think that pretty well There was one other note. Former Bosnian Serb leader Radovan Karadzic found guilty of genocide and war crimes. I'm looking to see. Doesn't list his sentence here, and I don't feel like sniffing for it. So we're going to move right along to April. There we had the Panama Papers, Secretary Kerry visits Japan, the ceasefire in Yemen, which probably didn't last long, Syrian parliamentary elections, can we call that a joke? Vladimir Grossman, the Ukrainian Prime Minister, Pope Francis visits refugees, impeachment of Dilma Rousseff, Obama sent troops to Syria, Saudi economic aid, and an airstrike on a Syrian hospital. Now, for those of you who are trying to keep up with all this, the Panama Papers refer to millions of confidential documents that were leaked from a Panama-based law firm. In the Panama Papers reveal how some of the globe's richest people funnel their assets into secretive shell companies in lightly regulated jurisdictions. So there were lots of secrets that came out. The Shiite rebels known as Houthis were fighting over Sana'a, and that's the capital of Yemen. Hint, they're still fighting in Sana'a. There's still leaking from things being discovered, although very little, about the Panama Papers. Brazil's president, Dilma Rousseff, gets impeached. Now, why is this important that I'm going to mention it in April? Does anybody remember? Come on, somebody has to. What country hosted the Olympic Games? Rio, Brazil. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And while there were terrorist reports in Sochi, looking for something. Oh yes, the swimmers detained in Rio.
About the way U.S. citizens are being handled during the course of the Olympic Games?
Well, ultimately, that's all for an American citizen. We would never obviously require any American citizen to comply with those kinds of requests. I think I'll stay where I was, which is that we would urge or we would like to see and encourage American citizens to do what they can to work with Brazilian authorities to close out this investigation.
This may be far-fetched, but would you want Ryan Lockley to go back to Rio then?
I mean, we've talked a lot in the run-up to the games about providing, through a range of sources, information to the multitude of Americans who are on the ground right now in Rio and in Brazil. Thus far, I'm not aware of any pattern of any kind of harassment or anything at all, frankly, in terms of crime. I'd have to obviously consult with our embassy in Rio, in Brazil rather, to get more information about that. But thus far, I don't think we've seen any concerns whatsoever about the security situation. Other than that, there have been several incidents, of which this is one, that have been reported. To answer your questions, Justin, trust me.
Very good question.
So, yes, remember swimmer Brian Lochte was detained. Well, there were other things that happened just before the Olympics that are noteworthy. We've got the body parts washing up on the beach just yards away from the beach volleyball venue. Oh, yes. Just yards. Just yards away. Then, during the Olympics, the water turned green in the pool. So, what catastrophe that was. Then, of course, we have Daesh blowing up Baghdad. The Russian government doping scandal. One of the abducted Nigerian schoolgirls found. Remember the hashtag Bring Back Our Girls? Alright, have hashtags ever solved anything? Who in here thinks they will? Raise your hand, raise your hand. I don't see any hands, so I don't think they're going to solve anything. Then we have the lovely President Obama visited Hiroshima. Oh yes, he visited Hiroshima. See if I can get an audio clip for that one. I'll tell you what, I just noticed we are past the bottom of the hour, so I am going to take a commercial break and pay them bills and find a couple more audio clips to round out this show. And I will see you on the other side.
You can lay it down if you wanna. You can run away if you wanna. You can pretend that this is totally okay if you wanna. You can play it dead if you wanna. Forget what they said if you wanna. Turn your back on the country needing you right now. But I don't wanna.
In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from the critique of the short story through to line edits on full-length novels. We also offer assistance on generating writers' bios for your websites. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
I've owned my company for 14 years now, and I can tell you that payroll is a 4-letter word. I hate doing it. It eats up hours I don't have, and it costs me money I could be saving. But my accountant's too expensive, and I'm not sure who to call. But I know I need help.
We're Paychex, and we take all the hassles out of small business payroll. We save you time and money. It's easy. Call, fax, or give us your payroll information securely online, and we take care of the rest. We calculate the correct taxes, manage payments and direct deposits. We even send out your checks. Payroll doesn't need to be a 4-letter word anymore. We're so sure that we can save you time and money that we'll give you a month's payroll free. Just for calling 877-757-2782. Get 1 month's payroll for free. Call Paychex right now. 877-757-2782. That's 877-757-2782.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
You
right. Thank you for hanging in there with me through that brief commercial break. Now, I found a couple audio clips, so we're going to finish up May and move on to June. Oh yes, we are going to finish up with May and move on to June. So, we were discussing President Obama visiting a wreath-laying ceremony at Hiroshima and giving a speech. Let's take a listen to some audio from that.
"71 years ago, on a bright, cloudless morning, death fell from the sky and the world was changed. A flash of light and a wall of fire destroyed a city and demonstrated that mankind possessed the means to destroy itself. Why do we come to this place? To Hiroshima. We come to ponder a terrible force unleashed in a not-so-distant past. We come to mourn the dead.
And while I agree many were killed at Hiroshima, I'd have to say that was a non-apology apology. Alright. And if I don't pick up my pace, I'm going to run long and not get through the rest of the year. So, we are not even halfway through the year, and I've got less than half my show left. Alright. So, the big story out of June. Let's see. Peru elected president. There were extremists in Kazakhstan, extremists in Kazakhstan, Anaconda NATO war games. Maria Sharapova received a 2-year suspension for drugs. The June terror attack in France. And I do have a brief, and I'll keep this one short, audio clip on that.
We took the opportunity, since it's the beginning of summer, to make
the State Department
our concerns known.
Declared possible terror attacks in Europe and warned all Americans. Let's take a quick listen if he will hurry up and spit out his cabbage.
About the potential risk of terrorist attacks throughout Europe, particularly when you've got the Tour de France starting up, you've got this European Football Championship, and of course the World Youth Day, all of which is happening in June and July. I'm not aware of any specific credible terrorist threat around these events.
Okay, so we don't have a credible threat. How many times have we heard this one? And you notice the events they mention, well, we're worried about this big event, and this big event, and this big event. Very, very, very rarely do you see one of those events attacked. Now, I'm no fan of anything, I'm no fan of people dying. I'm no fan of terrorist attacks. But, it's unfortunately become a reality that more countries must face. It started with a reality that Israelis have to face. And now it seems to be one the world has to face. All right, one other event, I'm going to mention a couple others. Olympic athletes bow out of going to Rio due to Zika. Yes, Zika. And we retook Fallujah for yet another time. And I've got a couple audio clips on Brexit. These are short.
The British people have voted to leave the European Union, and their will must be respected.
Okay, so that was the announcement by David Cameron of the vote on Brexit.
But I do not think it would be right for me to try to be the captain that steers our country to its next destination.
And then moments later he said, "Bye, I'm out." He didn't do a mic drop though. He did a lot of other things, but he didn't do a mic drop. So I have to actually give him some credit for not doing a mic drop. It's become almost cliche. It really has. Alright, Oscar Pistorius was sentenced in his murder case. Pokemon Go launched in July. Violence in South Sudan. No offense, when is there not violence in South Sudan in recent months? No, I don't always bring it up. On Wednesday, July 6th, the United States imposed sanctions on North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un for human rights abuses. In retaliation, North Korea decided to cut off the last and final communication channel with the United States. Although we do not have formal diplomatic ties, and we have not since the Korean War, the two countries often communicated through United Nations missions in New York. Moving forward, North Korea states that all further issues with the United States will be handled under wartime law. This includes at the time, there were 2 American prisoners who are currently serving terms of hard labor in North Korea. Alright, let me tell you folks, and this was in July, North Korean labor camps are not where you want to be. Alright, we're in July and I got 15 minutes to round it out. I actually have a news story from today that you haven't heard. So let me pick up my pace. So we're just going to have to skip some of those audio clips. Okay. Thailand's referendum equals a new constitution. Well, their constitution, as far as I'm concerned, is a joke. But there was a more Boko Haram massacre. Russia deploys airstrikes from Iran. That was the big one on this show. There was a suicide bomber at a Turkish wedding that caused quite a stir. Thousands have been killed in the Philippine drug war. Turkey entered the Syrian war, and the Colombian government made peace with the FARC rebels. Or did they? I'm adding the or did they. There was a top Daesh leader killed, and the Brazil Senate votes to impeach Rousseff. Oh, yes. Moving right along. Uzbekistan's president died in September. Mother Teresa gained sainthood. There were elections in Hong Kong. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with elections in Hong Kong, all of the Hong Kong candidates are handpicked by Beijing. And it was more than half the population came out to vote, voicing their discontent for China's attempt to stifle democracy. The results from the election shocked China's leadership. For the first time, the localists have gained seats, reflecting a growing belief that Hong Kong should be able to make its own decisions regardless of its big brother, China. And for those of you who are not aware, China rules Hong Kong with an iron thumb. Alright, moving right along to October. And I think I somehow in this chaos glossed over the coup in Turkey. But we'll get to this. Houthis target a United States Navy ship and the United States Navy retaliates. Way to go, Navy. Iraq launches the liberation of Mosul, something you've heard a lot about on this show. Russia announces humanitarian pause in Aleppo. There was an alleged ceasefire in Yemen. Why do I mention those back to back? Neither one lasted long. Outspoken Philippine President Duterte courts China. France closes a refugee camp called the Jungle. And Turkey fires 5% of its police force. On October 4th, 2016, Turkey announced that the government is suspending 13,000 police officers, 33 Air Force officers, and is shutting down TV station IMC for allegedly spreading terrorist propaganda. Yeah, I glossed over the coup. This is after the failed coup attempt of July 2016. And, of course, Turkey claimed that Fethullah Gulen, who currently resides in the United States, somehow started a coup in Turkey. Gulen, of course, denies any involvement and is currently in self-imposed exile in Pennsylvania. And, of course, Turkey made an extension of its state emergency, which allows Erdogan to make decisions without permission from the Constitutional Court. Oh, yes. And in November, Iraqi forces enter Mosul. Let me see if I've got an audio clip for that one. I got a couple of Dash audio clips. Let me see if I got a good one from November. I'm going through show prep folders here on the fly, folks. Because, believe it or not, I actually do sometimes keep an old show clip or two around. I don't have much from November. So we are going to breeze past November and focus on the catastrophe of December. And of course, I have bypassed all of the famous actors, actresses, and celebrities who were taken from us this year. You get that news everywhere. But I will mention two other deaths. The first United States casualty on November 24th, 2016, the first U.S. casualty occurs in Syria. It was Senior Chief Petty Officer Scott C. Dayton, who worked for the United States Special Forces stationed in Syria. Dayton died from wounds sustained from a Daesh IED. The attack occurred in Isa, 30 miles north of Daesh's self-declared capital of Raqqa. That is a notable death. And the other notable death from November, Fidel Castro. Yes. On November 25th, 2016, Fidel Castro dies at the age of 90. Castro was the revolutionary communist leader of Cuba for almost 5 decades, railing against evils of imperialism. In 1959, Castro led the overthrow of the previous dictator, Batista. Castro is a defiant demigod, a dictator, a charismatic leader for decades, a Soviet puppet, all rolled into one. Now, while he may have done some good things, okay, he allegedly lowered literacy rates and infant mortality rates, and allegedly started a national healthcare system. He failed to bring prosperity, had no tolerance for dissent, jailed thousands, killed thousands, and was an all-around horrid man. Alright, we are finally up to December. Yes, we are finally up to December. French President Hollande won't seek re-election. Italian Prime Minister Renzi resigns. South Korean lawmakers vote to impeach President Park. Kurdish militants kill dozens in Istanbul. Daesh recaptured Palmyra. Coptic Christians targeted in Cairo. Boeing lands first post-sanctions deal with Iran. Canadian actor Alan Thicke died. Aleppo back in government hands. Russian ambassador assassinated in Turkey. And Daesh strikes the Christmas market in Berlin. And the IMF head Christine Lagarde is found guilty of negligence. All right, we're going to touch on some of these because I do have a couple of minutes and a couple of clips. All right. And I've got one I'm going to add to that. I happen to be fond of this clip from Ban Ki-moon, where for statements from a sitting UN Secretary General, he let it rip.
Conflict in Syria is taking the greatest number of lives and sowing the widest instability. There is no military solution. Many groups have killed many innocents, but none more so than the government of Syria. Powerful patrons that keep feeding the war machine also have blood on their hands. Present in this hall today are representatives of governments that have ignored, facilitated, funded, participated in, or even planned and carried out atrocities just when we think it cannot get any worse. The bar of depravity sinks lower. Yesterday's sickening, savage, and apparently deliberate attack on a UN Syrian Arab Red Crescent aid convoy is the latest example. The humanitarians delivering life-saving aid were heroes. Those who bombed them were cowards. Accountability for crimes such as these is essential. A political transition is long overdue. After so much violence and misrule, the future of Syria should not rest on the fate of a single man.
Okay, you heard Ban Ki-moon just let it rip. All right, I've added my own favorites to this list. Starting with this clip from Samantha Powers.
But in reality, this vote for us was not straightforward because of where it is taking place at the United Nations. For the simple truth is that for as long as Israel has been a member of this institution, Israel has been treated differently from other nations at the United Nations.
And I've got one more clip from Samantha Powers on that very subject.
One need only look at the 18 resolutions against Israel adopted during the UN General Assembly in September, or the 12 Israel-specific resolutions adopted this year in the Human Rights Council, more than those focused on Syria, North Korea, Iran, and South Sudan put together, to see that in 2016, Israel continues to be treated differently from other member states.
And moving right along, recorded on the same day, but about an event that had happened previous to this. This was the Israeli permanent representative to the United Nations.
Just 2 months ago, UNESCO approved an absurd resolution denying the connection between the Jewish people and Jerusalem. Today, this council, including many of the world's leading democracies, the beacons of liberty, voted to condemn the state of Israel.
And yes, they did. And then there's this wonderful clip from Secretary Kerry.
Today there are a similar number of Jews and Palestinians living between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean Sea. They have a choice. They can choose to live together in one state, or they can separate into 2 states. But here is a fundamental reality. If the choice is one state, Israel can either be Jewish or democratic. It cannot be both. And it won't ever really be at peace.
All right. 2016. Hurry up and get gone. We've had enough. I'm sorry. Host Kitty and I have had it with you. It is time to get up and move quite merrily along. Now, I'm going to play just a few seconds of this because it was one of my favorite parodies of the year. Where did I just load it? And I know I just have moments to go.
She's a very slinky girl, the kind you don't want for Commander-in-Chief. She will never let her guard down, says it's her turn to be leader. Oh girl, she likes her emails to be secret.
And for those of you who aren't aware, that is Super Sneak, one of our favorite parodies here at the station. And with that, I'm going to announce we are putting together a special year in review through the parodies that we have played on the station over the past year or so. We may go back a little further for a few because they're just too delicious and they're still relevant to 2016. But a few of them will not be relevant in 2017. Now, I have one more thing I want to play. Looking ahead to January, we will hear this for Donald Trump. And for those of you who aren't aware, that is part of Hail to the Chief. All right. I believe that ends 2016. And for those of you longtime listeners of this show, you know what's coming. I'm out of here!